Different types of policies will usually form some kind of a hierarchy. At the top of the hierarchy, you will have an organizational policy. This targets humans and is meant for end users, customers, business owners, lawyers, and technical personnel. So it is written usually using a natural language such as English and tends to be high level. Even within organization like a university, you're going to have high level cross-cutting policies that cover the entire organization, and some more detailed policies that sit at the department like a computer science department or fine arts. It is also going to have some standards that are further concrete suggestions on how to implement your policy in your environment. Then you come down to configuration settings and implementation level policies, like a Linux lab in the computer science department may require security enhanced kernels. As with all policies, they should define the purpose, not mechanism. It may have additional documents that define how policy maps to mechanism. It should be enduring and not tied to using of a particular security product or technology. Getting heads in an organization together and making them agree on something is difficult, and it takes a lot of time. You don't want to be redoing your policy over and over again every time there's a change to technology. Local, state, and federal laws should be considered when creating the security policy. There are many statutes and laws governing the privacy of certain records, dealing with outside parties, and access violations. And the policy writers should strive to have the security policy conform to them. Now, a security policy should in no way impede or interfere with the business. Rather, it should enhance the process, providing confidence in the security of the day-to-day operations. By having a policy and by showing that you are trying really hard to implement it, it is showing due diligence, and that is what is going to protect your name in case you get broken into. Now, if they don't have a policy, then they are going to be a lot more open for a lawsuit if something goes bad. So you've joined a large multinational organization and they say you are a security expert. You need to implement a security policy. How are you going to go about doing that? The first thing you have to do is understand your environment. Understand the industry. Steal what other folks have done, or at least take a look at it. If you work for a bank, there are a lot of banks out there that have groups that have security policies. Lots of organizations may hire an external expert, but he may not understand your organization very well, and therefore local technical experts will definitely be needed. When creating a security policy, it is a good approach to have your drafts reviewed by representatives from different departments, such as IT managers, legal and human resources, personnel, and executives. This will create a document that is a representation and addresses the concerns of all interests within that organization. Style is critical when writing a policy. The first impression of a document is based on its style and organization. If the reader is immediately intimidated, the contents become irrelevant. Keep in mind that the role of policy is to guide behavior, and this can only happen if the roadmap is clear and easy to use. It is important to know your intended reader and write in a way that is understandable. Use terminology that is relevant, and most importantly, keep it simple. Policies that are overly complex tend to be misinterpreted. Now, prior to the 1970s, government policies used to be very verbose and complex. President Nixon was the first to decree in 1972 that the Federal Register should be written in layman's terms. Two other presidents, Carter and Clinton also issued similar orders in their time. In 2010, for the first time, a law was passed called the Plain Writing Act, which requires the federal government to write publications using plain language. What does it mean to write in plain language? Well, the Plain Language Action and Information Network, PLAIN, publishes guidelines on this. The salient points are as follows. Write for your audience. Use language your audience knows and is familiar with. Write short sentences. Express only one idea in each sentence. Limit a paragraph to one subject, and you should aim for no more than 7 lines. Be concise. Leave out unnecessary words. So, for example, instead of for the purpose of, use to. Instead of due to the fact, use because. Don't use jargon or technical terms when everyday words have the same meaning. Use active voice. So a sentence written in active voice shows the subject acting in standard English sentence order. Subject, verb, and then object. Active voice makes it clear who is supposed to do what. It eliminates ambiguity about responsibilities, not it must be done, but you must do it. Use must, not shall, to indicate requirements. Shall is imprecise. It can indicate either an obligation or a prediction. The word must is the clearest way to convey to your audience that they have to do something. Use words and terms consistently throughout your document. If you use the term senior citizens to refer to a group, for example, then continue to use this term throughout your document. You should omit redundant pairs or modifiers. So, for example, instead of cease and desist, use either cease or desist. Even better, use a simpler word such as stop. Avoid double negatives and exceptions to exceptions. Many ordinary words have a negative meaning, such as unless, fail to, unlawful, basically all the unwords, and all the disallowed, like dis words, and other words like terminate, void, insufficient, and so on. Now watch out for them when they appear after not. This example, the ball was thrown by George, does not qualify as plain because it is not written in active voice. George, who is the agent, is no longer the subject of the preposition by. The ball is no longer the object, but now becomes the subject of the sentence, where the agent preferably should be. It can be easily converted by simply saying George threw the ball. Grab a paper and a pencil, pause the video, and try to convert these two sentences to plain language. All right, let's go over what we did. So for part A, you can see that Jill can be made a subject according to active verb. We also see that the two terms started over and then again are redundant. They're saying the same thing, and so we can use only one of them. So better sentence would be Jill started over and completed the report. Now B can be made much smaller. So Jill will decide. What is the structure of a good cybersecurity policy? Well, while there's a lot of flexibility in the sections and their relative orderings, at the very least it should have four important sections. A purpose section should explain why are we writing this policy. So for example, a policy for a software development organization may say that it would allow company employees a safe and secure environment to develop software. The scope section should identify the resources being protected. This could be physical assets like PCs and the network, or logical assets such as source code and customer data. Further, a goals section would explain what is the kind of protection desired and to what degree it is required. So for example, the policy can state that we want to protect the data against unauthorized modification and that we want to prevent malware from affecting the network. Finally, a section on should outline who is the entity responsible for protecting that resource. A lot of security policy is to assign a responsibility, and this is not necessarily Joe from IT. It shouldn't be. This isn't the person on the ground who is responsible for implementing the mechanism, but it is his boss or his boss's boss, the person relatively high up in the job whose job is to ensure that the policy is implemented. The policy clauses need to be complete, cover all the cases and not just half a case without getting too verbose. It needs to be realistic. It is common that when you get a whole bunch of security guys in the room, they'll protect everything from your network to protecting you from aliens from Mars. So that is what a information security policy is. It is a high-level natural language policy. Let's go through an example of a good policy from my alma mater. The University of Illinois' information security policy is openly available online for everyone to see. It has metadata on when it was issued, when it was revised, and who is the responsible party. It has clear-cut sections on purpose, scope, timeline, authority, and then the actual policy clauses. Let's go ahead and read through some of this. So university information, including third-party information that may be accessed or stored by the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign, data is a valuable asset to the university and requires appropriate protection. Unauthorized use or disclosure of data could have adverse consequences. So see, just by reading a couple of sentences, we immediately understood that the policy is going to be talking about the data of the university and how it's important to keep it confidential. It's using very plain language, and it's making to the point that it's making it very easy for the reader to understand. That is it for this lesson. We've learned that policies exist at various levels of the organizational hierarchy and range from high-level natural language to concrete standards and configurations. Good policies should be enduring, realistic, and support the business process. A policy's language must be plain and clear. The style and format will vary based on the target audience. A security policy is a living document, and as such, in order to be effective, should be reviewed and updated on a periodic basis, and to ensure that it is up to date and it covers all applicable scenarios, environments, and systems within the organization.